the Magna Carta. In the year 1797, people disinherited the tomb of King John, and he was clothed in crimson damask and with a monk's cowl. His wish was it, as it was him granted, to be buried in Worcester Cathedral next to his favorite saint Wulfstan. They put John back into the earth, but someone had taken the bone off his thumb. The book is saying maybe because that person had a bad conscience, the thumb was later returned, but they didn't want to take King John up again, so they just placed it there with gold, mounted in gold. It disappeared again. And so, the thumb of the hand which sealed the Magna Carta is missing. What was the Magna Carta? England was in the 7th, 8th century a Saxon kingdom. There were the Saxons, the Heptarchy. These were Northumbrai and Mercia and Wessex and Essex and Kent and Sussex and East Anglia. Kingdoms, multiple kingdoms. Then there followed some time, 200 years, where many Viking invasions came. And not just to raids, but later on also to settle there, and when also ruling. And there was when struggling and fighting for who was ruling England. Actually, 1015, 1035, it was ruled by King Canute, who was also ruling Denmark and Norway. And when in the year 1066, William, the Duke of Normandy, came to England. And he defeated Harold, the King of Wessex, in the Battle of Hastings, and in the same year, 1066, he was crowned in Westminster Abbey to be the King of England. And from then onwards, England was no longer ruled as multiple Saxon kingdoms, or with the Vikings fighting for who is ruling England, but it was ruled by the Normans, by William the Conqueror, who is the great-great-great-uncle of King John. During these 150 years, from the ruling of William the Conqueror until King John, there was from time to time again objection, quarreling, rivaling, revolts against the Norman control by the barons. They didn't really like to be controlled by a king. And when the Magna Carta, it peaked in a way with that Magna Carta as an important thing, but it went also on. So King John was now ruling 1250, and he was ruling also previously from 1199 onwards. Was he ruling following Richard Lionheart, his brother, and his father Henry II. He was ruling, and in the year 1204, England lost all its possessions in France. Previously, the Angevin kingdom spanning England and most parts of France was ruled by an English, French, or Norman king or queen. And now they were lost, and he had great expenses in war efforts, King John, and the barons didn't like that so much tax was taken from the barons and from the people living there. And they didn't like the arbitrary power of King John to change the feudal system, the form of society which have come over with the Normans to England, that the king is giving country to lords, and they were ruling that area and the people living on it, and paying for that taxes and so on to the king. They didn't really like the power of King John to rule over it all, and they didn't like it, and so they revolted. And they forced him then to sign the Magna Carta at Runnymede on the Thames near Windsor on the 15th June 1215. King John had also some problems with the church. He didn't accept Stephen as the Archbishop of Canterbury. The Pope Innocent III forbade all types of service of the church, a part of baptism and funeral in England. The Pope Innocent III excommunicated King John. But the two somehow found more or less together again, and immediately after King John had signed the Magna Carta, he said, with support of the Pope, that he does not have to oblige to what is said in the Magna Carta. What was said there? There was said something along the line of that there are standards in royal writing, and then two other things. One of them is that the king cannot just make taxes as he wants to, or not change the feudal system as he wants to. So he didn't accept it. And the barons were not happy with that. And they bade for assistance of the Dauphin of France, the later King Louis VIII of France, who then invaded England and conquered and captured even the Tower of London. But then King John died in 1216 unexpectedly at Newark. His son followed him on the throne, King Henry III. He was 9 years old, and he had two regents, William the Marshal and Hubert the Burr. And both were able to fight out the later Louis VIII out of England with battles at Lincoln and Wendover, May and August. And that is not the complete end. Henry III's sister Eleanor was married to Simon de Montfort, who forced King Henry III, and 15 years later when he was an adult, because the people didn't like again how he was ruling. He had gotten advisors who were French into his court and so on. They didn't like that. They forced him to sign the something of Oxford. But he didn't like that as well. He repudiated to oblige to it. He repudiated that thing. And so civil war was there. And the King Henry III was defeated by Simon de Montfort. And Simon de Montfort was for 1 year the de facto ruler of England. Then the son of Henry III, the later Edward I, defeated Simon de Montfort at the Battle of Evesham. And Henry III was again ruling for more than 50 years, then followed by Edward I. So the story goes on. The king wasn't obliging to what was said there, neither King John nor his son, Henry III. But it set the principle into life that also the king is obliged to some laws and doesn't have unlimited power. And that is a benchmark in the story of the evolution of British law. According to The History of the Kings and Queens of England and Scotland, main article on the page 58 and 59. The positions and views expressed are the ones of the source and don't necessarily align with my own or with the ones of the entity spoken of.